Hello, everybody, and welcome to the HSBG Podcast, episode 28. I'm your host, Educatedcollins, and I've realized that my lights are not on, but I have one light on, and but it's a different vibe, you know. But yeah, welcome to this episode. I'm here with a constant co-host, Shadybunny. Shadybunny, how you doing?
I am well. Thank you for asking, Collins. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, generally. Yeah, I mean, I do think I've been feeling all right, at least today, you know. Not
Frogs aren't getting you down.
the crippling depression isn't today, so far good, man. Anyways, you know, a lot of I guess the meta hasn't changed since last week, right? There hasn't been a patch or anything, right? They I guess tend to do patches 2 weeks or so, right? So um I'm thinking next week there'll be a patch, but generally it's kind of been the same meta, except this time I know what I'm talking about now. I've actually played, so I can now contribute.
Hey,
But yeah, so I definitely feel what you've been talking about last week in terms of what's strong and what's not. I agree with your statement. You know, I have learned and tested myself, so definitely on agreement there. But we always start off with our weekly Auto Grounds overview, just kind of talking about how we feel, how the meta has been good. I've generally been playing, definitely been climbing, da da da. Every time I don't get Master Win, I'm a little bit sad because I'm like, oh man, if I played a week ago, I'd be getting every other game. But other than that, you know, generally it's been relatively good. Been you know, having as much fun as you can in this meta, I guess.
yeah, it's like I'm definitely dealing with the meta better, where I still have a lot of fun games. Some games it is a little silly, where I think a particular thing I dislike is where I'm on 7 gold. I've leveled to 3 the turn before that, and then I get a bad shop. And in the previous meta, that was a slam dunk level.
Level,
Didn't
yeah,
didn't have to think about it.
yeah.
And now I have to be in a really good spot to be able to afford that level, because otherwise I'm going to take too much damage, and there's not enough of a payout at 4, 5, 6 to not just stay on 3 for another 2 or 3 turns, in my experience. Now, if you're really high rolling, sure, because you can still have a really high rolling game and just go to 6, do some crazy shit. But if you have a normal start, so usually it's Panda, right? If you're playing Panda, you're like, oh, I got like I had a Panda game earlier where I like bear off for 3 extra coins. I got the perfect hero powers. Everything was smooth. I was strong. I was rich. And like, yeah, sure. Then I leveled there. But I think in most cases, and that makes me a little sad, because then the game just comes down to, oh, I guess I'm just gonna roll here, and I just need to get good minions or I'm dead. And that was different in the previous meta. But overall, I've started to appreciate it more. Where I still think the meta is awful. Let me be very upfront about that.
Yeah.
But just there are things you can do to get better results, and just like finding those nuances, knowing, okay, this is where I roll, this is where I buy, this is where I level, this is where I swap into a different composition, this is where I do poison. Something that I do a lot more now in the late game is just, okay, how many beasts players are in the lobby, and I'll just go to 6 and I'll start hunting zaps, where I like legit play a golden zap, because it's 4 attacks. So even if they play around it, if it's not a spore, you're still gonna get to the Baron. So that feels pretty good when you have a golden Baron. Like you kill like the rat pack and then you kill the Baron. So yeah. So overall, yes, it's been good. Also, steadily climbing, figuring out what works, figuring out what works a little less. But yeah, cannot wait for a more balanced meta for sure.
Yeah, you did remind me of like I was hearing some other players, some streamers complaining about the meta and just saying, "Oh, it's not fair." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not like having that like issue because I'm not like focusing on my MMR, but I can see if you are like trying to climb as fast and as quickly and efficiently as possible, where it starts being frustrating where you level to 3, you don't get the 2-6, and you're just
Yeah,
like, damn,
trap.
I've lost. I can't,
You know,
essentially.
this is, yeah. So my reaction, and this is what's allowing me to climb still, is if I don't have an obscene high roll, like let's say you've got like 2 frogs and you got pairs and you can triple into Baron, like you have a way out, right? Or you have 2 whelp smugglers and you're just popping off. If I don't have that, right, and I'm just my standard game plan is to go for Doomsayer because I think that's the one that's the strongest. If I don't hit it in the next couple turns, a lot of it is just like, oh, I cannot play for number 1 or maybe even number 2 anymore. I just hard pivot into juggler. Like I do that quite often right now, and I just start killing people and I just say like, I cannot compete with anyone that got a Doomsayer right now. Like I just cannot. So I have to just start killing people, start dealing 15 to them so the game speeds up and I can get my top 4, top 3. And that's been working pretty well because you've got Meccano tank now as well, if mechs are in.
You reminded me. I had a game with Zephyrus.
Right,
I had double juggler and golden Meccano tank.
Yes,
And
yes.
it
I had
was-
golden Meccano tank, golden juggler, golden. I actually had 2 golden jugglers and a golden Meccano tank.
That was me. That was me.
You had that too? Okay.
I killed the beast players and I got second.
Yes, it's pretty funny, right? I told my chat, like, that's the scene when you have all that ammo loaded up where the guy was like, just start shooting everything. You know, had like 2 void lords. It can be fun, right? In that regard, it can be fun. But it is silly that if on, say, 9 gold, you're on tier 3, you're like, well, pack it in, boys. We're not winning this game. It's not happening. I don't have a Doomsayer yet. So yeah, anyways.
Because you are seeing, your opponents are getting those, right? Like if you're not getting the Doomsayer, your opponents are getting the Doomsayer. So
someone's getting the Doomsayer.
Yeah, so you're behind. Yeah, and when the games are decided that early, it just doesn't feel great if you're like trying to be strong. Like God forbid you're in a tournament and that's the situation, right? Like, what do you even do?
Go jugglers and kill people because not much else is gonna work.
Yeah, so I definitely understand the frustration in this meta, especially if you're trying to climb, trying to be as high rated as possible. So that's just something I have noticed, and I have heard that other people are struggling to, really enjoy the meta when it feels bad, I guess is what I'll say. But moving on, we usually talk about a hero, a minion. I think we'll bring that back. I think this hero I want to talk about this week was Tess. Yes, because everyone always likes talking about Tess when there's a new patch/expansion. Everyone's always like, damn, everyone's playing the same comp. Tess is amazing. I can play the same comp as my opponents and take their good stuff. And I would have to say, honestly, sometimes that is true. Like, yeah, you're like, if beasts are in, demons are out, Tess can really pop off. I've had a couple games where 5 people are beasts. So 6 people are beasts because I'm also gonna be best. Yeah. I'm just gonna take that, and it's like very unfair, right? Because you fight someone, they have like Frogger, Macaw, Baron, and then you're like, okay, take Frogger, Macaw, Baron. Next person has like Frogger, Macaw, doesn't have the Baron. You're like, I don't care, I've got my Baron. Da 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 da. You find the Baron in the shop. Next person has Baron. Oh, I have Golden Baron, and you just have like. I had a game where I had like everything was golden, right? And it was like reborn on it was just like the nuttiest composition really possible. And you can really only get that with Tess, right? The high rolls are really strong. But one thing you do have to keep in mind is that if the minions that are not available are very specific, like, oh, everyone's going to be playing this one comp. If beasts and demons are in, it's a lot harder, right? Because you're going to be dealing with the demon players, or you want to go demon players, or if mechs, elementals, blah blah blah, all the viable options are in, then you get a higher variety of minions. And when you're getting the higher variety, it's not likely you're going to always see the one you're playing or the one you want. So, I always, like, every time there's a new patch, I always hear people saying, Tess is so good, that I won my game, it was amazing. And I'm just like, yeah, well, you can't pick Tess every time because you're not going to get those situations every time. There are going to be very good lobbies for Tess, right? So if you're paying attention, what's likely to be played, right? When usually there's like one, like in this particular meta, there are like viable compositions, and then the suckers, I guess.
You can just herd, if they're all being herded towards the same one, you go like, hey, now I pick my Tess, right? Yeah. Like beasts are out, demons are out, mechs are out. You guys are gonna play Whelp Smuggler. We'll steal your Whelp Smugglers.
Yeah.
Like that's one like less powerful example, but like with the frogs, you're right on the money there. It's like when the others are out, but beasts are in, you're like, well, what else are they gonna be playing? But yeah, when everything is in, Tess is just Tess. Like she's back to not being good because you're gonna steal a good comp, but you're gonna take 15 in the process. Then that comp's not gonna be established yet, and then you're gonna take another 15. And it's just like, yeah, it's not a good experience. But yeah, there's some crazy Tess high rolls. I guess the problem is that there are a lot of really insane games where it feels like you couldn't have beaten the tests, and people remember those.
Right.
And then that's how that gets perpetuated, that every time a new meta happens and people are playing similar things, Tess is batshit crazy broken, completely unbalanced, best hero by far. This is what you hear. This is if you see on if you're reading Reddit or whatever, you would get that impression immediately, that Tess is the best hero on the meta right now. And the same thing happened during the Piggy meta where everyone was playing Piggies. Yeah, she's a lot better, but she's not better than like a Jandis. She's not better than a Hooktusk or anything like that. It's just that you have these stupid games, right? You have these outliers where you grab everything and then you do feel like a god. But it is still a very dangerous hero inherently to take, because that hero power is not helping you out early game.
Very true. You really have to pay attention to what's in and what people are likely to play. It's very easy this patch because you can just look, like, you don't really have to. You don't have to play the game out to know what people are going to run, right? Like, where before you kind of need to say, oh, someone's running mech, someone's running demons, like it would take a while for you to see what people are running, and then you could like adjust on the fly. But right now you can just kind of look at the hero selection screen and be like, oh, I know what people are running this game, right? So it's a lot easier to be able to make the correct choice when you pick tests. But then if you're not being careful, if you're not just looking at all the options, it's very possible to just be like, oh, Tess is in, I'll take Tess. Oh, wait, everything's in, I'm not getting what I want. Oh, I die. So you do have to be careful with this hero. But I felt, Tess is getting, that love that she gets every time there's a new patch. But you got to be careful. I just got to give you those warning signs. It's not a snap pick every single time. It's more of a what's in, let's be careful. Okay, B Sereno, only dragons are really viable here. Okay, but Test makes a lot of sense because there's a very high likelihood that at least 4 or 5 people are going to be playing the viable composition, and being able to take those pieces very quickly and efficiently, I should be the strongest one. So just gotta be aware of that and careful. But other than that, good hero. I mean, when it works, it's very strong.
I think frogs in particular like work really well with her because we specifically said demons out. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is that demons accelerate the game, because Doomsayer just gives you more resources. The Doomsayer players have more cards on the board. They will be a higher tavern tier level. And as a result, whenever they beat people, they're going to be dealing closer to 15 until somebody dies. If you're losing to a beast build, a lot of the time it's like 2 tokens on board at the end, and you're taking 7 or 8 max. And in those kind of games, Tess has more time to steal the cards. Like, you can lose to a beast build, but you're not getting mauled. Especially if someone's already died, you can just take 25 from a demon player quite easily. If there's 2 unkillable Urzils, the rest stays alive. It's like, oh, my entire board went into that Urzil, or those Urzils, and nothing happened. Whereas with a beast build, you're gonna kill the frog, you're gonna kill the macaw, you're probably gonna end up killing the baron, or they don't have a baron yet, and that's a lot less phase damage you're taking for stealing your board.
Very, very, very true. So, overall, viable hero. You have to be careful when you pick it, but if picked in the right situation, really, really good, really, really strong. So just wanted to give a little shout out, as we do almost every time. Hey, Tess, interesting hero.
Yeah, playable to say the least.
Yeah. Next thing we're talking about, I want to talk about one of these minions that I really don't see ever get touched these days. Salt Scale Honcho. So this was really added up to shake the meta, right? All these new cards, right? This one, then it's like, damn, Murlocs get +1 health. Amazing. It's on 2. You can get it early. Oh, imagine the triple. That's 4 health per Murloc. But I never see this card. I literally never never see anyone.
So, like, Flurk can play Murlocs in his meta. Surprise, right? What else is Flurk going to play? And I don't think Flurk is pure garbage anymore. But of course, the meta comps are so strong that, until we see nerfs, it's pretty much suicide to go Murlocs.
So what you're saying is Murlocs are pure garbage.
Yes. Well, I do lose to some Flurks from time to time. I gotta say that I do lose to some Flurks, but usually
I do not. So it's
yeah, okay. But I guess what I'm trying to say is when you have that guaranteed Murloc income, right, where they can just sell and buy more Murlocs, like having a golden copy of this on the board is not too bad. It's I think it's particularly when you don't have demons to compete with, right? Because demons just scale so fast, deal so much face damage,
and beasts.
Right. So yeah, but Flurk would get time to play as Murlocs, right, in a beast lobby, but wouldn't really get time in a demon lobby.
Sure, but if beasts get time to play their beasts, then you lose anyways, right? Because like there's some in
but I mean you can still get second place. Well, also if Quillboars aren't in, it's not impossible for you to zap their Baron. I still fight a decent amount of players that don't have proper Baron protection.
Okay, so what I do if Quillboars aren't in is I take the 1-4.
Yes,
right? And then I just drop.
Not a lot of people do that. Okay. Not a lot of people do that.
So that you see, that doesn't work against me.
also, what people tend to do is they have the Rat Pack, right?
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, my Baron has 3 power. My Rat Pack will soak it." But what happens is they go first. Their Frog dies, buffs the Rat Pack. Boom! You still hit the Baron.
Yeah.
Like I've killed 2 people in that identical way, where they had the Rat Pack and they thought they were zap proof. But they went first, and then of course, the frog goes somewhere. The chance that it buffs the rat is reasonably high, given that they have a Baron, so the proc's going to happen twice, and they just get owned by the zap anyway.
That's why you have 2 Rat Packs. You see, you play around.
Yeah, I went into the finals with like golden zap, regular zap. At one point where I'm like, I'm coming after the Baron, bro.
That might get me.
When you got the golden
zap, a little too much. Yeah,
that's why you really don't want to lose, right? Yeah. Believe it or not, I lost that game because it was either an Edwin or a Vol'jin, and the Baron was like the second or highest attack minion on the board. But still, I sniped an entire 2 Rat Packs with that golden zap. Then I killed a high main and the 2/2. So all their death rattles were gone. Didn't matter. Just Baron stuck. They had frog, so they still won. So it's so the exponential scaling is so insane when the Baron sticks that even a golden regular zap comp wasn't enough to beat that shit. But that's an outlier, right? That's a
we're talking about Murlocs have a chance, and here you go. Giving us the story of them. I sniped their Barons and their Rat Packs and their Highman. And I'm still losing.
Yeah. So long story short, Murloc bad. Don't play Murloc for now.
Yeah. A little bit sad, but yeah. Unfortunately, I do think Murlocs. I mean, it could be better when some of the stronger cards are nerfed, right? But I still get the feeling that it's still going to be tough for Murlocs even like after the nerfs or the changes. So it's going to be quite a bit weird. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it, just like kind of saying, hey, this card was supposed to do something and really hasn't done anything. It's kind of like an insta skip for a lot of players, especially this meta. So yeah. Anyways, next thing, I wanted to talk about the problem children in the meta. We talked about it a little bit last week, but now I can contribute. There's like 3 cards that are really kind of dictating what everyone else does. You know, if these cards are in, then pretty much most of the lobby these days know what they're doing, and they're gonna make sure they have some piece of this in their composition. So it's always so funny where I'll see someone with like a completely different comp, and then they'll have like a Doomsayer, or like a completely different comp, and then they'll have like a Leapfrogger, like
a random frog in there.
just like it makes no sense at all for them to have these pieces, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, just in case.
That's so good. I had that exact experience when I had a Flurk with 6 Murlocs and then a Doomsayer in the back, and just like he's selling those demons for Murlocs because it makes sense. Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I mean, these are problems. These are definitely kind of an issue. Pretty much has dictated the meta since they've come in, and you know, these are the ones I think are prime targets for nerfs next week, right? Like these are the ones where if they don't get changed,
pitchforks are coming out.
Something's wrong, you know, like with the Blizzard design. Like, if, you know, like legitimately, if these don't get touched at all, there's they're doing something. They're not playing the same game we are. But yeah, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about like the cards and like how we would change them. Should they stay? You know, even, you know, like what are the thoughts on the meta and even Avenge and all that synergy and stuff like that. Just wanted to, you know, discuss them as a whole and see. Is there like something problematic with some of their design or like where they're placed, you know, their costs? Like there's a lot of like little things that could be touched to nerf them. I really don't think like stat changes would do anything, right? Like you could make some of these cards like a 0/1 and they'd still be played, right? Like, I mean, let's say, you know, well, maybe not. Well, Leapfrog, I guess you taunted, so you'd still play Leap. Like, let's say you made all of these a 0/1. I think everyone would still play.
The problem with that is they don't pull their own weights in the fights then, right? So you're just bleeding out faster. I'm not saying, well, Leapfrogger, to pick it up earlier with, you know, right now it's already somewhat of a liability to pick up frogs early, in my experience.
It hasn't been for me. Like as a 3/3, because as long as you have another beast, at least.
Yes, okay. You need to know. Well, that's the thing, right? Like just pick frog with no beast. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's kind of bad, but
yeah, no, I mean what I would bring up is more like specific blah 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 blah. Yes, overall I would say that stat changes aren't the way to go.
Right.
But to drive it as far as you'd play them as 0/1s. Not 100% sure right now.
I mean, I think I would, to be fair. Like let's say Doomsayer was a 0/1.
Doomsayer very specifically.
I would touch, yes. Yeah.
But it also means that it doesn't survive anything.
Right? Yeah. And I would say Well Smugglers, you don't pick it for the 2/4 power play.
No, but you can pick it up early and not get completely smashed in fights, right? You can pick up 2 of these without a dragon and you feel pretty good about yourself. But if it's 2 0/1s, 2 eggs that don't pop anything, essentially, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
I don't know. I think you might be underestimating just how much tempo you lose.
Okay, I guess with Well Smuggler, maybe not, but Doomslayer, yeah. And I think Frog with a Houndmaster. That's what I'm thinking. You got to get the Houndmaster taunt, essentially. But yeah, this is just an example. I'm just throwing out a random example, anyways. I'm just saying like stats are not the way to go. But in terms of like nerfs, right? I think a lot of times, you know, they tend to make it like not crazy, right? The 2/2 is probably gonna do 1/1, 2 health. We kind of talked about this a little bit before, right? We're assuming 2 health is gonna go to 1 health. We think Avenge is gonna go to 4, right? Just that kind of thing. So
so like the Blizzard philosophy is change as little as possible with as high as an impact, right? Like at least map from 2 to 3, boom, straight unplayable.
Yeah, it's crazy though, right? I thought Release would like maybe have a chance, but no, just.
This is the thing where you have hope, right? Because you might look at these cards and they're so strong right now, but you're like, no, they're gonna change a 3 to a 4, and it's gonna feel like crap or something, right? So that's the that's the hope I have right now. Where the nerfs, they should hit them hard. Where
Especially
Hearthstone's such a
Doomslayer, right? Being the
yeah, Doomsayer
strongest.
needs to be taken out. Just
You wouldn't mind if these cards get removed, right? We talked about it last week.
yes.
Wouldn't
Just
care.
bring me back to my previous meta. Take me to my happy place. That was good. I go to tier 6. I play faces. I get some rags, some gars. This was the good life, right? So yeah. No, I mean I'm more than happy to learn a new meta but it needs to be reasonable, right? When I had 2 triples on Hooktusk and I went for 2 3-drops. This was silliness, right? This cannot continue, right? Like, and I'm pretty sure it was correct, which is the most stupid part about it. Like, that is complete silliness that cannot continue. It is just not a good way to play the game. The good stuff needs to be on 5, needs to be on 6. Otherwise, why are we leveling? There's no point to it.
Would moving like Frogger to like 5 or 6, would that fix anything? Like, it would just become a gold run. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's like the solution either.
So let's say you put let's say you stat adjust Frogger, right? You make it a little beefier. You put it on the 5 or 6.
It's a 4/4 now. Amazing.
Well, the thing with Frogger is people need to roll on 4 to get the Reborn, to get the Macaws, to triple into Baron. So not knowing whether you're going to have a Frog or not, that hurts that comp a lot. I guess that's the thing. Like, knowing that you're gonna have a Frog because you rolled into it on 2, or you're gonna have a Golden Frog or 2 frogs or whatnot, that helps you a lot. So I think, yeah, if you move it to 5 or 6, that definitely impacts the comp a lot, because your early and your mid game needs to be very different. You kind of need to play something else
And then transition into
yeah, because right now people are playing frogs in their comp, and they're not even that weak, because if you get 2 frogs and some death rattle beasts to get a rat pack, that's kind of good.
Yeah, that's true. It wouldn't be like beast comp into like fleshed out a frog comp. It would be like something else into beast comp.
Yeah, so you'd more like transition into it. So you'd like, I don't know, maybe get an early Mama or something, play Mama, and then swap it out. Kind of how you get the gold run these days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get the gold run, you tripled into a Mama or something, or you play the golden spawn with Macaw, or blah 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 blah.
It'd be very similar. So it would change how you play the comps. I think there'd also be less of them in the pool. Just so you see less you see less beasts or less
for sure
froggers as well. So that is pretty important. Yeah. It like every time I think about moving minions in tiers, I always think about the 2/3 Murloc that used to be on 2. It got moved to 3, and that changed Murlocs completely. Like, Murlocs used to be like the king, where you could get the 2/3 that buffs 2 health.
Seers.
Yeah, the seer. It used to be on 2, so you would just
That's so insane. Yeah, when you think about it,
you got so many of them, and you could play Murlocs super early. Everyone's going Murlocs, and then they just moved it to 3, and that was all it took. They did another thing. I think they moved. They did something else as well, but like moving it to 3 really changed how strong Murlocs were in the early game. So I always respect moving minions up a tier or down a tier. Like, I think it does change things a lot. Just seeing less of it, and then having to base your triple off hitting that one card or so. Interesting. Well, Smuggler, we don't really talk about too much, but I still think it's an impactful card, and that it had the spotlight at the beginning because it was bugged, but now that without the bug, it's less of a spotlight, but it's still strong. It just kind of requires more synergy, I guess, in itself. Like, you can't just run.
They haven't fixed the gem interaction yet with moving the stack, so
I don't think they will. I don't think that will get touched, right? Because it's not like no one complains about it. You know what I mean?
I will just continue abusing it like
that
crazy.
Reminds me of my on the next topic. I should talk about that in there too.
Sure.
Yeah, as well.
It's just I think we we said Whelp Smuggler, just half the buffs. That's the easiest way for Blizzard to fix it. All they got to change on the card is turn +2 health into +1 health, and that definitely makes the cards less crazy. Effectively halves the bonus scaling, right? So right now you still see Cthulhu's donkey rolling for this card.
Right.
Donkey rolling would mean just rolling purely for, I guess, dragons. You're donkey rolling for dragons and Gem Smuggler. So you're not picking up anything else. And that's still pretty unhealthy. And I did it myself this morning and I got first place. And I was like, yep, this is because there's also the problem is that they also made this card who just gets like 300 attack when the late game out of nowhere, where you have this this 1/3 that just keeps doubling its attack. Like you can't just combine that with a Whelp Smuggler and be like unlimited health, unlimited attack, 300, let's go. It's a pretty silly minion at that stage. But yeah, dragons do have an obscene amount of health in the late game right now. So cutting the scaling in half will make it a lot easier. And then you don't have this bullshit where you're thinking, oh, should I kick my smuggler for a Caligos? I don't know about that, man. Like, if you have a golden smuggler
had
on
that
the board.
problem, like, was it yesterday? I was just like, yeah, I don't think this Caligos is better. Actually, I actually just ran double Kelly, double Whelp, and I was like, yep.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you're fighting, of course, right? Does the bonus health make a lot of sense? Do they have really high attack? Do they have poisons? Blah, 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 blah. So but it should never, in my opinion, be the case that you have a Caligos and a Whelp Smuggler and you're actually thinking, which one am I going to play, right? Come on, you're dragons. That's a Caligos. Like, yeah.
One battle cry was like what, +10 health or something like that. I was like, okay.
Stupid amount, yeah. Wait, are the Cali triggers separate for the smuggler?
They're separate if they're to get like I ended up tripling it. And then it went. I was like 6 health afterwards. I was like, damn.
Sure, should have kept 2 Calis.
Should have kept 2 Calis. Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. That's 2 separate cards. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. Oh my god, dude, that's so silly. That's 2 separate triggers for battle cry. Yeah. Anyways, like we can move on, right? We've talked about the problem children in the meta right now.
Yeah, I mean everyone's already talked about these cards to death. Nerf them. Get them out of here. I'm fine with that right now. I'll move it on. Buffs, so we've talked about the strong cards. What about some of the, the other archetypes that don't get any play? Pirates, you don't really see them. Murlocs, you don't really see them. Quillbores that aren't Gem Splitter, you don't really see them that much.
You a Gem Splitter? No, get out of my comp. Get out of my comp. I don't want. If you are ground, like you can bring your buddy Ground Shaker, but only if you bring a lot of gems with you, right?
Yeah. And even that 1/4, like that 1/4 is just used to make Barons bigger. What's my purpose? I make Barons bigger. Oh my god.
I make sure Baron doesn't die to Zap. Oh my god.
Yeah, little bit sad. An interesting stat I saw about Shipwright is if you pick this card, you have the highest chance of losing. Like this is like
because you don't know the meta.
if you play this card, it gives you the highest chance of losing the game.
I think it's because it's the type of player that picks the card, right? Now, it's because we are in this hard force meta where you look at the shop. Does the shop, have either like insanely good minions for your composition or the broken minions we talked about? If not, roller level. And Shipwright, it's never part of, oh, this is sick for my board, or this is like an OP card. So Shipwright is never in that must buy scenario. So if you're buying Shipwrights, then
you might be right. It might not be that this card is like absolute garbage trash.
It's a 3/4, right?
It's more of who's playing this card.
Yeah, why? You're just delaying the composition that you're actually after by buying. This thing has 0 synergy. Like, sure, it spawns a pirate in the shop, no one cares.
I think that's very true. It's like if you are you know, uh, what is the word? Not drunk, sober enough to buy this card, you're doing something wrong, that kind of thing. But yeah, I do think some of these cards could use a little above love, or not just the card, but the archetype they belong to, right? I don't think pirates are like super crazy, right? Like double hogger, with that card that
Peggy.
yeah, like that's pretty valuable, but you need like double hogger, right? Like the
Yeah.
the requirement
Well,
is kind of high.
to be honest, that's just pirates, though, right? Pirates. It's assuming that Scally Comp is viable again. Well, it's not like it's not viable, right? But you just don't see it very often because it's so overshadowed by the other
Yeah.
compositions. Pirates are played in those two ways, where it's Scally Comp with Eliza's or it's double hogger, and I think that's okay. That's their identity. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. I think Eliza is, especially, let's say we assume previous meta standard in terms of numbers after the nerf, where we don't get 200 health dragons routinely on the board. We don't get these insanely crazy beast comps or these super nasty demon boards. Then Scally comp is probably, Eliza is probably back to being good. So I don't think pirates necessarily need that much love in that regard, where it's just nerf the other things and then double hogger and Eliza, you're naturally going to see more of that.
That makes me a little bit sad because I remember when they were talking about this minion rework, they're like, oh, we're gonna, you know, create different ways to play, these minion types. Like pirates are getting a new identity. Like they said that. And I was
I
just like,
know. It's just, yeah.
here we are, and it's just like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play a double hugger again or double Eliza scan. Like nothing has changed except that it sucks. Right
Well,
now.
I guess they have a little bit of hogger support with Peggy now, right? So, but I think if you were a good, experienced double hogger player, you don't need Peggy, right? Like
No, you don't.
you just get unlimited. If you're an experienced, competent player, you get unlimited gold. You know what to do with that. You make a board full of Amalgadons. You get these giant ass salty looters with Golden Baron, Golden Selfless, right? You're very strong. Uh, yeah, I guess the thing they were really going for was Nosy Looter, but
Yeah,
you know,
pretty much.
I cannot predict whether that card is suddenly going to be like, oh, cool, I tripled
Oh,
into a Nosy after the nerfs. But right now, it's just too slow. Pretty much always too slow.
I was playing Reno. I got Nosy Looted and Golden Knight.
Oh,
And,
okay. How'd I
and
go?
I won the game. I
Hey.
transitioned into Kelly. I'm just gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
fair, whatever.
But I won the game. I was like, oh, this worked out. And the chat was like, yeah, that's because you're playing. I would have died here. It's like, oh, I made it work. You get 2 coins a turn. Like, that's pretty good, right? It reminded me of like early, the Death Rattle gold card, right? Like, just kind of the same thing where
Yeah.
you're just getting 2 extra gold per turn. Like, that can be really valuable.
I was watching an XQ endgame where he did Golden the other pirate, the 4/4, which is the replacement to the Coin Lady. So
that's
he was
the
getting.
one I hero powered.
Oh, I thought you hero
I don't know
powered
the name.
Nosy.
What's Nosy do? I have no idea.
Okay, so you said 2 cards a turn, and I
Yeah.
was assuming, Nosy Looter will give you the triple and then the discovery. That's 2 cards, sure. Nosy Looter is the tier 6 minion
Oh no
that gives you a golden minion.
I got the gold one. Who cares what?
No. I get you. So that's what we're talking. Yeah, of course. So you did exactly the same thing, right? You golden that 4/4. You got 2 coins. It's also an 8/8, which is better than a 6/6, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is the damn thing doesn't have to die. So you're not gonna sit there and be like, no, my money didn't die. No. Because that was the worst, right? You hero power your money on Reno. You're like, no, it survived. It's disaster. So I think that's
I've
fair.
never touched that card ever since the beginning.
That's the thing, right? So today I had a board where I had 2 Nosy Looters on my board because I had an Eliza, and I was like, surely. And then I took 20 from a demon player and died, and I'm just like, okay, well, stop me next time I want to be cute, chat. Like, just Shady, what are you buying these stupid pirates for? Just buy some big fernals, get some results. stop trying to innovate. This is not,
This is
this
not
is
the
not the meta
innovate
for that.
meta. Yeah, exactly.
I was actually, talking about that on my stream where I said, guys, there's probably other ways to play the game, and there's nuances and there's little things. But given that the nerfs have been announced for this month, it's just not worth it. Just keep spamming what you know is strong, keep refining that, and then once the nerfs are in, then start experimenting, start being like, oh, maybe there's this little way where I can play these cards. And because right now it's all just wasted effort, and your return on investment is so small compared to just, all right, let me just play demon, let me just play frog, let me just play dragon, etc.
But yeah, that's very true. It's just not. It doesn't make too much sense to experiment right now when people are not going to be experimenting, so you'll get absolutely destroyed. Like you're trying to play test at like difficulty 100 when you could just like wait a week and like play in difficulty 10, whereas like you're used to it, so you can actually like get away with some of the little intricacies of like optimization here. Right? It doesn't work when everyone's just playing like Azul or something and just gonna smack you for 50. I do agree with that. A little bit sad, but that's pirates. I haven't really talked about it, Quilvers and Murlocs either. But I think that it's kind of the same thing, where they just don't feel strong enough right now, and I don't know if like the nerf to the other three will make these archetypes rise up, right? Like,
So Murloc, Quilboar, pirates, those are the ones we're talking about.
and Green Thumb, neutral minions.
Yes,
When's
green
when's Tyrion coming back? I need those Tyrion strats. That's
I don't know, man. I just, maybe when the meta slows down a bit, but right now Green Thumb, it just doesn't feel good. No, I think it's because it's +2/+1. Like if it gave 2 health, right, it feels a lot better.
+2.
Like giving the or even +1/+2,
+1,
just like
+2,
2
yeah.
health, right?
Yeah,
Two.
right.
We know that, right? Health
Yeah.
is the relevant stat. If
Yeah,
Bob
yeah.
Smuggler gave 2 attack, no one gives a shit, right? Whatever. Cute card, I guess, right? Let's build some smart dragons. Oh, but 2 health, holy crap, that thing is never dying. So I think that's just the problem I have with Green Thumb, where even if you have to make it work, I'm looking at my card and like, 3 extra health for all that work. Yeah. Get out of here. Get out of my comp. So yeah, maybe if they switch it around and they gave health or 2/2, right? Like 2/2 is also fine. Just make it give 2 health, and then maybe it feels a little bit more relevant when you actually get it.
Or you could make it avenge 1. Just saying, yeah.
Oh. Let's not. Let's go from one crazy avenge card into another. Just change it. Get the Green Thumb meta, right? People just hard rolling for a Green Thumb. And it's always in. It's always in.
That sounds so busted. But yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Yep. All right.
Back to complaining. But yeah, I do think I don't know, Flat Tusk feels super weird due to Jump Splitter for me as well. Like just cause like whatever Flat Tusk could do, Jump Splitter does it better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like
it's a 3
really
drop. It's like,
I don't know where they went with that design philosophy on Gem Splitter. And I think they may have also backed themselves in a corner in terms of nerfing it, because that thing gives 1 gem per shield.
Gem,
so
it's like, yeah. 1 gem per 2 shields. They're gonna Flat Tusk it.
Like you can like, or shield avenge, where it's like 2 shields have to die. Well, they can always say like, okay, we'll turn it into a 4-drop, we'll turn it into a 5-drop, right? So they can nerf it that way. But that is the card that I have been, like pegging as these cards are gonna be nerfed. Oh well, welcome to these cards. These are the cards I've been playing with for a while. And
you'll bring us to our next topic, Shady.
Sure. All right. Well,
right into it.
Smooth. Let's go to the
hidden OP stuff.
The hidden OP, baby. I don't know if Necral's hidden OP. I can see that thing.
Because I think they're not getting nerfed next patch. That's what I mean by hidden OP. Like, these cards are not getting nerfed next patch. And then people are going to be like, "Oh wow, this card's in the game. Wow, I didn't." Well,
so we could have titled this "Shit You'll Be Playing After the Nerf."
True. That's another way.
Okay, no, I got you.
That's very true. I think because the big three are so like visible, so everyone's talking about those. The other stuff that people can like that can be abused, but people aren't talking about will just like go into
Completely
the limelight.
overshadowed.
Yeah, and it just kind of makes me sad because it's like you could nerf these too. Like I mean, but I'd be really surprised if they touch any of these cards.
You gotta give the people time to get fed up with the
But
new OP.
but I'm already fed up with them.
Then nerf it. Yeah, but this is the thing. Like the general player base has not yet been pestered enough to say this card is fucking bullshit. This card is so dumb. Oh man. But, yeah. Let's go straight into it, Collins. Which of these cards do you think
Do I
is
hate
either like the most
most?
BS? Yeah, let's just go with the card you hate the most out of this.
Can you guess?
It's Prester.
No, it's macro. I hate macro, dude.
All right. I say, well, you love Prester then, right?
Prester would be number 2, I think. But
Okay.
no,
No, that's true. You do have this. I wasn't there for that. Like, well, I was there for a little bit, but I wasn't there for that prime, like, holy mackerel meta. I get that.
I'm so tired of this. Like,
I feel like I never really struggle with it, though.
It's because Prester's in.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Just
like,
destroy it with a Prester.
But also ghoul, right? You just ghoul their board. Like, I feel like you're mega vulnerable to ghoul.
Well, usually they have a reset for their deflecto, so they're like even if you
but like okay, but isn't their board like 6 shields and a mech roll or like 5 shields and a mech roll? Aren't they super fucking handicapped if you
usually they've been using Omega Buster. So it's been like Omega Buster and then like the 3/6 and then like a Baron and like 2 of these macros.
Whoa. The problem with that build is Omega Buster attacks, dies, does not reset, summons a token attacks, dies, does not reset. So you need to, like, the moment you attack the same macro twice, it's over for them. And I feel like it's also quite difficult to set up. No, I mean, I know I've played it enough myself. I know it's quite difficult to set up not only 2 holy macros, but 2 holy macros that have enough stats to be a threat. So I feel like what you're describing here is quite...
there's different ways. So I've seen one where you're relying on Omega Buster. I've seen one you're relying on Grease Spot. I guess Grease Spot has more of the ghoul counter, I guess, where you can just
the reason why I bring it up is because I've played it myself, where I have Omega Buster and I have this fish, and I just get this like conflicting feeling where I'm just, well, I have this taunted macro and I want to keep it resetting. But also
the
this
macro's
Buster
not taunted. Is where
their macros are not taunted. Okay,
yeah, sure. It's not taunted. So
they're just going for the, well,
I'll have like 40 mech rolls.
Hope you just ping pong.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's not like
that is frustrating when the ping pong actually happens.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's so annoying. Like Prester, I will admit, just like absolutely smashed this. There's like, I think I actually lost though. I think I fought a comp like this and I lost because he lucked out. He RNG'd me to victory, and I was just like, yeah, I shouldn't have lost, but hey, macros are OP kind of thing, so maybe that's why. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of macro at all. Like, I think it's very...
It can be a very frustrating thing to play against, absolutely. So Collins is thinking, oh no, people are going to pick more macros and have to do this
they
thing.
Are. They definitely are, for sure. Just because it can almost contest this meta. You know what I mean?
Like, I play, yeah, for sure. I think Gem Splitter is a big part of that, right? Where if you do get, like, I had this today, like golden Gem Splitter with like macro
10 gems per turn, right? Like, just easy.
Yeah, you get a Pumbaa that's +20 +20.
Yeah.
It's just like +20 on my macro is pretty good, It's like, bring it on, dragons. And then they play a Prester and like, well, not like that. Yeah.
And they're and like, imagine they nerf all the other stuff, right? And this is almost strong enough to contest. Like, this is gonna be the new OP. It's gonna be very played.
Mechs will be relevant for sure, super relevant.
Yeah.
So Master of Realities is on there as well, which I think a lot of people will be like, that card is pretty damn terrible, Collins. I don't know what, but that card's ass. Have you played with that card before? So maybe a little bit of an illustration, right?
I mean,
Yeah, you
go
want
for
you
it.
want to take
No,
that?
go for it. Go for it.
So I think specifically Millhouse makes this card problematic, where you can play this card with other heroes. And so for anyone who's not aware, how does this card work? You don't play it with Rag, or it's not like exclusively where you can't have a Rag on the board with this thing, but you get it going with Molten Rock, you get it going with Major Domo, you get it going with Party Elemental, and then you suddenly have, oh, I play an Elemental, this thing gets +3/+3 +4/+4. And yeah, that goes very fast when you're playing Millhouse. And there is this other card, which is the real culprit behind that engine. It's the it's not
5/4.
refreshing, and it's the 5/4 that refreshes. I don't know what its name is again, but especially if you
5/4.
golden it. Sorry?
Refreshing 5/4.
Refreshing 5/4. Yeah, refreshing anomaly thing on 4. So essentially that card says whenever you play an elemental, your next reroll is 0. You're playing Millhouse, so rerolling is very expensive because your minions only cost 2 gold. So now you are effectively rolling for 0 in most of your turns, which is insane. I had a game today where I had 2 of these Master of Realities go to 200, no problem, where you just pump. And it's fun to play, don't get me wrong, but man, if everything else gets nerfed, holy crap, Millhouse is going to just have a field day whenever elementals are in, because this is already winning lobbies in, like I specifically try to play this when demons are out, just because the tempo of the lobby is a little lower. So you don't get smacked for 15 by some high roller while you're trying to set up. But yeah, it's every time I triple in this card as Millhouse, I know what to do to that game. And if you add Nomi early, then it gets even crazier. Yeah, so that's something I'm afraid of when the nerfs happen. I can't imagine them nerfing the reroll elemental. I can't imagine them nerfing Master of Realities. So yeah, that thing is absolutely going to be a threat when Millhouse is in. So that's going to be
Wraith.
Sorry?
Yeah, Recycling Wraith is the name.
Recycling Wraith, yeah. So that is a very specific thing. And I think the patch is full of those things where you're like, oh, but have you thought about this? But this is really strong. Like for instance, Gem Splitter George. that shit is broken. You can hero power your entire board, and your entire board produces a gem. Like, that's probably not okay. So then you have Elemental Millhouse, you have Quillboard George. So then we go to this meta where we go like, oh no, man, Quillboards are in and there's a George. Elementals are in, there's a Millhouse. You start to get this Shutterwalky feeling where you're like, these heroes are looking
in and there's a Shutterwalk.
Yeah, there's a Shutterwalk where there's tokens in. Now I'm assuming there is gonna be a nerf, right? If there's like I cannot really
patch.
Yes, I cannot really give them a path, but I can understand why they were doing all the fancy new shit. But they have enough data. Shutterwalk is absolutely still a problem. So yeah, they need to either address tokens or Shutterwalk, because it's not fun. I still have it multiple times a day where I'm like, oh, -15 because I fought a Shutterwalk. 0% chance I take any less damage than 15 here. All right.
Yeah, and Gem Slitter just feels kind of weird when you compare it to Chaga or Flat Tusk as a 3-drop. Yeah, it like this is better than them. Like I would sell my Chaga to
sell your Charlie.
Yeah, in the right setup, just to play the Gem Slitter and be like, yeah, this is better for me. I want a target where I put my 7 gems in my hand. Like seems a bit weird or strong, right? Like I don't know. Well, I was gonna say I don't know if Gem is too strong or Chaga is too weak, but I know what the problem is. Just too strong in that.
It's just power creep as well, where we don't know if they want to remain around the same power level as what we have been playing, because power creep has happened, right? We know this. Like,
Yeah.
boards did get bigger when Quillboards were in, but when do you want to stop that? Because this is too much for me, where I
You,
see
you,
these health totals,
you know
these
when
attack.
I think there's a problem? When your attack and HP becomes so high that you overflow into 0 and kill yourself. That I think at that point you
But then we are just like memeing, right? And saying like, oh, like, oh, fine, we'll just make that impossible. Still, I find like when you routinely create 200, 300
right.
health, or for like 300 attack minions and stuff, I feel like I don't know, that doesn't feel real anymore. We're just I find that also much harder to balance when suddenly say like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
true.
that's very possible to make those boards. Whereas if we think before the patch, what would be considered a big board? Like having 50, 60, 70, maybe like the Agam had like 90 HP if you were like pumping super hard with a golden Pumbaa and a flat tusk and we're just like spamming gems. But
Remember when
like,
Golden Battlemaster was the nuts?
you're like, wow, I can't lose, like top 2 guaranteed, baby. Let's go.
Now you're looking at that and like, damn, that thing is useless. Let me get a Terragosa. That's a little bit better for me. Yeah,
That was yeah.
It's a little weird. I do agree. The power level of some of the new cards.
And I guess that's the one thing where I'm afraid that that's not really going to drop enough to get that feel of pre-patch again. But oh well, probably just an old man reminiscing for simpler days.
Terragosa could go up in here too. I will admit I didn't mention it, but like
there is some cool.
Yeah.
So if they fix it where Whelp Smuggler arm actually sticks, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure if you're aware, like when you taunt your Terragosa and you have an arm of the Empire.
Bit.
Yeah. So
it's not consistent.
It doesn't stick. You get the health in combat, and then it goes away again at the end of combat, which obviously is against Terragosa's design.
Yeah.
So let's cover Prester a little bit, by the way, right? Because we haven't really talked.
We also haven't talked about the dragon gem swapping that as well.
All right. Sure.
But we can put those in. I mean, they're both dragon mechanics.
Yeah. We'll close that in. So one thing, if the assumed nerf is the health goes to +1 on the Whelp Smuggler instead of +2, that I think that would help a lot for sure. That's not a nerf where you're like, oh, good job, Blizzard, it's not really going to do anything. No, that's a big nerf. That's half of the buff is gone, but there are still, let's assume that the meta becomes a bit slower paced, that now you don't have these crazy Doomsayer boards anymore. People aren't popping off like crazy. You won't need as many stats to be suddenly a real threat, or to have this board be like, huh, how did you get that big? And there is this particular interaction, which we talked about on a podcast, with the 3/3 gem swapper Quillbore. Yeah, the Necrolite that moves gems from one target to another. Every gem is one trigger for the smuggler. So let's say you have your golden smuggler, you are still gaining +2 HP for, assuming it's nerfed, for every gem moved. If that interaction will be considered a feature, not a bug, the same way how Vol'jin can do some fairly buggy things with gems, let's be honest, but that's a feature. Blizzard has said we're not changing that. That's intentional. In this case, let's say, especially with a gem splitter, you build up a stack of 30, 40 gems on one minion. This is not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. Every time you hit a Necrolite, you are moving 40 gems from one dragon to another. And if it's a golden smuggler, you are adding 80 health. 80, right? So now you can do that and you can just compete with the demon boards. There's some craziness going on. But let's say everything settles down a little bit. No crazy Frogger boards, no crazy Doomsayer boards. That's 80 health per Necrolite you find, we can tone it down a little bit. Let's say 20 gems, because 40 gems, that's a pretty big stack. But once again, not impossible if you get either a flat tusk or you get your gem splitter with some shields on the board. it's that's still 40 health every time you move 20 gems.
You also
That's
have to remember you're
not
getting 20 attack too. Like, I love how you're like that doesn't.
well, you're moving well. I additionally, right? But
Yeah, sure.
you're getting, so if you, let's say you move 20 worth of gems, the minion will get 20, but also an additional 40 bonus health.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
So that's the health you're making out of nowhere. That's like poof, new health. Because
2 mana plus 40 health.
yeah, the Necrolite moves stats around, but the 40 health just out of nowhere. That's extra. That's bonus. Like I had one turn when I was playing this comp where 3 Necrolites popped in my shop, and I was just like, "Oh, chat, watch this shit."
Golden
like,
Necrolite, right? Wait.
No.
Oh.
It was just like move, which is a boom, and just like this, I don't know, like 300, 400 health dragons. It was very, very insane. So yeah, that's an interaction that might become really problematic when Dragon Quillboars are in. The rest gets nerfed. That shit still works. Yeah, will be interesting to see whether you can set it up, because obviously it requires some setup. You need the gems. You need to find the whelp smugglers. So.
And then Prester itself kind of removes counterplay for some particular compositions, right? Like there's a lot of popular comps rely on, Selfless, rely on, Mech Divine Shield, even counter matchups, right? Double dragons, right? One has Nadina, one has Prester. You kind of neutralize those advantages and just make like make trying to play around your opponent's composition irrelevant, right? Like, oh yeah, they're trying to play around my, Divine Shield Nadina. They have a goal. I'll just remove all of the Divine Shields of the Prester and win the game from there. So when dragons already have access to Divine Shields themselves, right? Being able to neutralize your opponent's Divine Shields kind of makes it creates a situation where there's not anything you can do on your side of the board to counteract what they're doing. They have Nadina, Prester, and big dragons. What's gonna counter that yourself? If you're not running the exact same composition, what are you gonna do to defeat that? And normally they're good at that, right? They added Ghoul to deal with George stuff. They've added Spore to deal with big elementals at the time, things like that. But this Prester, there's not really a counter. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just zap my 3/5. No, it's a 50-50 now. Like, that doesn't work. There's not really.
You can't play. You do not play shields essentially. It was so sad actually that I sold my Golden Baron when I had a Golden Selfless because my opponent had a Presters, and I was like, well, there's just not that much value in Divine Shielding my whole board. And when you are in the late game and you don't really want to play Golden Selfless Baron, that's when you know something's off. I don't know. Late game, not adding complete shields to your board. I just don't see why this card needs to exist when Ghoul is there. Like Ghoul is, Ghoul has some counterplay to it. Ghoul has some mind games to it. Oh, I'm gonna put myself as third, right? They go first with their Ghoul, then I'm gonna absorb, blah 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 blah. Or I'm gonna put my Ghoul in the second position. Try to get their Nadina to go off first, and then I will Ghoul. That's skill testing. That's cool. Of course, some RNG involved, as with everything in this game. But Presters is just nope. No shields for you under no conditions. Every time I attack one of your units, it will not have a shield. That's BS. Right? Like you said, no counterplay.
Yeah, I don't think they were thinking about how this actually interacted in the meta. I think what happened is, okay, we need to change some cards. Oh, let's change the 5/6. Okay, the 5/6 deals 3 to the front. Let's just make a cooler version that people will play. Okay, let's just have it deal 3 to whatever your dragon attacks. That sounds cool. Let's ship it.
I would be very surprised if they didn't think about a Divine Shield interaction with this.
I don't know. I don't really feel like that's what they were thinking. I don't think they were like, let's remove Divine Shields for dragon players. Like, I don't think that came into their mind. I think they were just working on the 5/6. They wanted to change it, and then they're just like, okay, let's just make it dragon synergistic, and let's have dragons deal 3. Cool. And then they were like, all right, this is pretty cool against Divine Shields. That's a cool interaction, blah, blah, blah. Right? They're not thinking, what about endgame comms when you have Nadina, Prester, and a full board of Divine Shield
Sure,
Dragons?
but you've still seen this interact, and then you still be like, yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
Let's keep it in.
I think so. Like they saw it and they're like, yeah, this is not a problem. You know what I mean? And
Just
now
it's yeah.
now that people are playing with it and being like, well, if no one's talking about it, this is my issue. But like next patch,
yeah, people will because
Yeah.
what this is going to be the really frustrating part. It is going to be correct to play mech, but then there's one or two people with oppressors, and you face them, and you're just like your entire comp stops working, and that's so BS.
And the annoying thing is like you could not be playing dragons. You could just be playing amalgams. And you're, oh yeah, just Prester. I have 2 amalgams with Divine Shield. Oh yeah, that kills 4 minions for free.
Like the Wind Fury as well, right?
Yeah.
Like bam, bam, yeah.
It's like how is that?
Like when a Wind Fury amalgam just goes into a spore and it's like, bing, it pings the spore with the 3 damage. That's that's something that I've already looked at when I'm in an endgame situation and I'm fighting a dragon player. I'm just like, my spore. I don't want it too early because then it goes into the shield created by the Nadina, but I can't put it too late because then if my taunts are dead, they might Prester it. So that was a very like, ooh, where does the spore go? Is it third? Is it fourth? Yeah. So that was so long story short, cart does not need to exist, but cart exists anyway, just creating very frustrating positions when, just be a George in a dragon lobby. It's just like, wow, okay.
I've
Prester my entire board.
I got be completely honest. It's mostly me doing this to my opponents.
Yeah, me too, of course.
I'm not the one getting Prestered these days.
But you will be.
Yeah, exactly. But every time I play it, I'm just like, this is a problem. I'm winning.
No one's gonna do this to me later.
Yeah, well, I'm like, oh god, I can't imagine where when I get hit by this. But right now, like, no one's doing it because everyone's playing the other fancy stuff. But I just know, oh yeah, next patch is gonna be like this, where everyone's gonna tack this into their compositions, and it's gonna be very annoying. So yeah, annoying. Yeah, just potentially, but yeah, that's my fear. Like the patch is gonna come out, none of these cards are gonna get touched. Then people are gonna slowly realize these are problems, and then 2 weeks later, hey, let's actually work on this. But that's like a whole month, essentially. Before any of this gets changed. So I'm just imagining the next month is just gonna be like, hey, look at these cards. But
that is my exact same fear. We're gonna need another nerf round, and it's not gonna be fast enough.
Yeah, here we are, like a month early. I'm just we're just putting it out there. These are problems, but yeah, whatever.
We're already bitching about the next card. We're just getting our bitching in a little early,
Yeah, for sure. So
okay, good. All right, well, let's move it on. Next section.
What do we got here? Oh yeah, macaw poison. Right. I usually have like a Word document for the topics, but not today. But hey, I wanted to talk about this composition because I think this composition's kind of interesting. So it's not like super popular or common, right? Because it does require a little bit of setup, but when you have it set up, it's pretty cool. I saw someone showed me like a video of they had like Golden Macaw, Reborn, Golden Trickster, and like two spores, and then what happens is like sometimes the Trickster hits itself, right, and then it doubles in value. So you'll start with like a 30 health, and then it'll double to 60, and then it doubles to 120, right, and then that will like hit a spore. The spore had like 480 health, and I'm just like, okay, like
that's pretty good.
That's gonna solo everything, right? Like,
poison or bust. So.
Yeah, so and it's cool because you can put like selfless into the comp like pretty easily. It's not like you're fully reliant on having just a poison with high health. You can also have divine shields on them too. So there's quite a bit of decision, or there's kind of bit of leeway in how you want to run this, right? You don't need Spore too. You could run Murlocs. I don't see that too often, but you could also run
So
my
the
Exna too. So yeah.
the poison aspect isn't even 100% necessary, where
Sure.
people sometimes create these boards where they just have unlimited health, and then you'll get there, right? If your units aren't dying, you'll get there one hit at a time. I think that the fan favorite for this one is Taragosa, where you just keep the number. So the hero that does this composition the best is Vol'jin, because Vol'jin can make the, first of all, Vol'jin has an easy way to make the trickster bigger from the get-go. You just swap something from the shop, or you have this Weaver on your board, you swap that to the trickster, and suddenly the trickster has this starting good amount of health. Then you have a Taragosa, so in combat, the Taragosa will catch the trickster buff. She'll have, let's say, 80 health after a good fight or whatever. Then you swap that 80 health from the Taragosa to the trickster. The trickster now has 80 health, and that's where it really starts scaling, where every single turn you can almost like harvest the Taragosa's health that she acquired, swap it to the trickster, and things start getting very, very silly very fast. The poison, I think, is still a good addition, because I played this for the first time myself today, where I thought this comp was a bit more me, and it is very me comp, don't get me wrong. It's hard to pull off, like the pieces. You need to have beasts in, you need to have demons in, you need to have dragons in if you want the Taragosa. You need to find the Baron. You need to you need to make sure this trickster has some base stats, and all the while you need to also be alive. So in this high tempo meta, that's not the easiest thing to pull off, but sometimes it comes together, and when it does, oh my god, it felt very, very strong. Like I killed some beast players with this, where I'd be like, haha, because they just had their frog jumps and be like, that's not gonna beat 400 health, motherfucker. It's just like that felt very good in the mid game, to just be like, yeah, do your whole combo. I don't care. It's not big.
Yeah, that sounds satisfying. Let them jump. Let those frogs jump. I'll just kill them.
And then you just imagine the reaction of the beast player, be like, that's not fair. You can't just keep printing stats. I was like, that's what you're doing, but you're just not doing it as well. Oh man,
sounds
beautiful.
Good. Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, there's something very satisfying about beating frog builds when you're just outstatting them.
I don't know. I still feel for frog builds. My chat is like no sympathy. Actually, for frog
Zap
players,
his ass.
Yeah, there's no sympathy, and I'm like, no, they got unlucky. Their Baron got sniped. That's so sad. And they're like, no, they deserve it. They're the worst scum of the earth. I'm just like, okay.
I feel that. I really feel that.
I still have sympathy in my heart, so I don't get that, but yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a good counter for some of the meta if you can get the setup, and I think it's a fun comp too. Like that's why I want to talk about it. It's a very fun composition where, I don't know. It's nice to have something with infinite attack and like 500 HP. Like, yeah, that's fun, So. And it's not like, I mean, it is kind of hard to set up, right? Because you need like the right pieces, and unless this comp exists, you're not really gonna be taking like a trickster and keeping it and trying to buff it and make it strong, right? But if you do realize you can do this, it is pretty nice. And we did kind of talk about trickster when it was revealed. We're like, we kind of like the attack a little bit more, because the attack, you could do some really interesting things with it, but there is a place for buffing health, right? Like especially with poison minions. For sure. So it is revealing itself, and it might even become more refined when things get nerfed and things are a little bit more balanced, or maybe it gets nerfed itself. I mean, honestly, like I can see this potentially being like, oh, maybe this needs to be looked at as well. So. Right now, I don't see it often, if ever, right? Like I don't think I've seen it ever. I've seen it once, actually. I've seen it in my own games once, but that's like not common, right? So it's not a popular build, but I do think it has potential whenever it is being played and you have the right setups. It does require like specific minion types to be in. Like, if beasts are out, you can't do it. If demons are out, you can't do it. So it requires specific minion types. But if they're all in and you don't die early and you can get the setup, then it's pretty powerful. So just wanted to talk about this podcast.
It's something that you want to experience before something might get fixed, right? Where Blizzard says, like, you know what, probably shouldn't be able to make 2 million health on your units during the fight. So I don't know exactly how, right? But they might do something where they say, probably should be making millions of health. So while it's possible, experience it yourself. Maybe it's gonna be possible all meta. I have no idea. It feels like a very weird thing to just allow that.
If it gets too popular, they're gonna nerf it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is somewhat game breaking. Right
yeah,
now.
I don't think it's not gonna be all meta. So get it while it's hot. Yeah, that kind of thing. We kind of talked about it with Wealth last week. Oh yeah, while
abuse it now you can because the shit's not gonna stick. Yeah,
for sure. So, definitely an interesting composition that people have been working with these days. But yeah, I think that's everything we have this week. Yeah, it is. Any final thoughts about anything we've talked about so far this week?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you just, in a weird way, just enjoy this while it lasts, because you might have, some other stuff to complain about very, very soon. And then you're just like, I don't think so, right? But maybe at some point you start to think, was Doomsayer on 3 really that bad? Probably not. But, just hang in there for any of you guys that play a lot and are a bit fed up with the meta. It's there's no other way than that we get some significant nerfs. So change is on the way for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's something you can always worry about, that while they're trying to fix some stuff, they create more broken things. Like sometimes when they adjust cards, like I remember the Genie, right? When Genie used to be a 6, they moved it to 5. Then it was like, what the hell is this? Back in the 6 and slap a couple of nerfs on it too. For good measure. So you always got to be a little bit careful when it comes to these patches, especially like reactionary patches, right? Sometimes, like I think sometimes it's good, but like sometimes they do over nerf, like when it comes to heroes and things like that, where the hero goes from playable to unplayable, right? And then like it stays unplayable for forever. They don't get the Reno treatment, where it's like, oh, here's a small buff to slowly over time making it playable. No, you get one like hammer, and then there's no band-aid ever. You're just bleeding
How
out.
low do we need to smash this hero power for it to not break it but still be good? And like 0? Okay, let's try that. Bang.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what the patch has in store for us, but it's
I'm grateful for that. I actually like Reno. I think Reno's fun.
I actually don't care about Reno whatsoever, so I wouldn't
No
have minded.
opinion.
Wouldn't have minded Reno still at two mana.
Just to throw that out there as an anecdote. Well, not really an anecdote, but what I've been hero powering in this meta, it's not been Doomsayer. It's been Pinkman. Because yeah, the Wrathweaver. Because this has been my philosophy. I've been thinking about it out loud with chat, and so far it's been making sense. If you have a golden Pinkman and you roll into a Doomsayer, you are in a very, very good position.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you're going to 3, you're hard rolling for Doomsayer and you're really all in on making a golden. Man, you are in such a bad spot if you don't hit it. Holy shit, you're in such a bad spot.
Another thing is, even if you do hit the Doomsayer, you can't trigger it that turn.
Yeah, you need things to put on the board. Yeah, for sure.
You're already like super behind. as well. And then also
Now,
like
don't get me wrong, Golden Doomsayer is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Golden Doomsayer,
sure.
you're very happy, but it's just it's felt very safe, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that Zephyrus, same story where I'm using my triples really early, where I used 2 wishes while I was still on tier 3. So I'm just pulling 3 drops and pulling 4 drops, just tempo, 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 and that's been feeling a lot better in this meta instead of taking damage to get a higher tier minion. So I think heroes like
minions these
yeah, go
Who
sorry.
needs higher tier minions these days?
Yeah, exactly. So just
What a
just maybe a
shame.
little tip for those of you right that are gonna try and grind it out a little bit more. Just being strong early is super good in this meta. Like it's very very normal because people will hit you in the face because they're trying to discover these powerful early game cards, and even if they don't hit a Doomsayer, you're still getting hit with a collateral 3-drop that's on the board dealing damage. Like it doesn't matter if they hit Doomsayer or not. If that's a salty looter that survives, that's still 3 extra phase damage that you wouldn't have taken in the previous meta where people would be holding their triples.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting meta so far, and next week's gonna be also interesting too, because then we get to talk about their changes.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Let's hope.
There better be changes, dude.
There better be some changes by next week. All right.
Yeah.
Send them off, Collins.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us this week. You appreciate it. You can send us some feedback. HSBG Podcast, gmail.com. You can find me at Educate_Collins at Twitch. Or maybe YouTube if you like that. You can find Shadybunny at Shadybunny. You know, gotta put 2 U's, 2 N's, 2 Y's. Nah, I'm kidding. You can see it on the screen, but Bunny is regular. And that'll be it for us. We'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves and have a wonderful day.
Have a good one, everyone.